This is a weight and fortune machine that I found at a relic shop. And I don't want to say how much it cost, but it takes pennies. And if I can just get 60,000 people to come over and give it a try, then I'll break even. And I don't want to say how many friends I have, but I need to make some new friends. Now, when I was loading up this machine to bring home, I could hear that it was still full of money, and I'm rather excited to open up the back and find out how much is actually in this thing. Before I open up the back, I'll show you how the machine works. The fortune says, you must be more conservative to avoid financial loss. Wow. There's a mysterious power to a copper penny, and you'll already know the proof of that. If you've ever been daydreaming and someone said, "A penny for your thoughts," wasn't your answer either, "I wasn't thinking anything," or "My mind was far away"? A copper penny has the occult power to carry off a thought. Even just the mention of a copper penny can do that, as you've experienced yourself when your mind went blank. This must be why copper pennies are so often tossed into wishing wells, because they'll carry one's wish into that elemental flow of the universe. I suspect that's why gypsy fortune tellers traditionally ask for their palms to be crossed with silver, not because they're greedy, but because copper is too charged with magic, too cloudy with thoughts. Those thoughts lost to pennies are said to be added to the long memory, the connective stream of notions that define the collective history, a non-monetary wealth of song and poetry, stories and gossip that we can access through our dreams. No two pennies are exactly the same color due to their individual travels, depending upon which hands touch them, the nature of the climate, the chemical makeup of the air, and the ravages of time. Different darkenings, stainings, tarnishings, and patinas are created. We tend to think of pennies as copper-colored, but if you look at 3,000 different pennies, you'll see 3,000 unique colors. You'll start to wonder why coins of the same denomination don't look alike. Just as there was more genetic diversity within Africa than in the rest of the world put together, the variation between any two pennies is so vast that a penny has more in common with a silver dollar than it does with another penny. It verges on the psychedelic. Intellectually, you know that pennies are copper-colored. But after the first 100 varieties of copper, followed by the second and third 100, you find yourself sliding down a fractal rainbow with just a single band that bafflingly changes even as it remains coppery. And after the fourth and fifth and 600, you begin to realize that there's no end to the possible variety of copper, that this fractal rainbow with a single band can go on changing indefinitely, forever. The patina is verdigris, one of the precious ingredients in the alchemical recipes of old. The ancients considered copper's patina to be a disease, as if the metal had cancer. Even so, this misfortunate verdigris was crucial for making gold. Did you know that if you collect verdigris dust and sprinkle it on something, anything, it will reveal an unspeakable beauty? You can prove that for yourself. And that explains why pennies are more beguiling the more you handle them. The verdigris spreads. We tend to think of pennies as being of lesser value than coins made from other metals, and certainly as being less valuable than silver or gold. And one reason why people don't mind their pocket change for older, more precious pennies is that it's technically not worth the time. Sure, an older penny can be worth twice its face value, but that's still merely 2 cents, and most people can find better avenues for turning a higher profit. However, there's a maxim that says that it's worthwhile to walk a mile to save a penny. And an ancient dictum of the Hermetic philosophers is that the riches of the noblest hidden mystery become apparent to those who cultivate humility. That somewhat echoes the even more ancient spiritual paradox that the lowest shall be the highest, the least shall be the greatest. The implication is that the coin least in value may be the greatest treasure hiding in plain sight. In Irish lore, you can buy joy for a penny in the land of faery. I find myself separating all sorts of piles of these pennies. There are the pre-1982 pennies, of course, which contain vastly more copper than their younger brethren, and are at least double in value. There are the 1982 pennies themselves, from the year in which lesser copper pennies began to be minted. These need to be individually tested to see whether they're full copper or not. There are a good number of Canadian pennies, and I'm not sure whether to officially count them among the loot or not. I mean, they're foreign currency, but I've had United States banks on many occasions give me a Canadian penny. So are Canadian pennies de facto US pennies? Either way, the pre-1997 Canadian pennies contain 98% copper and are each worth 2 cents. There are a handful of dimes, which I find especially delightful, because that means they were put into the machine by folks who didn't have a penny, but so wanted to use this machine that they paid 10 times what it cost. As post-1965 dimes are made of an alloy with 91% copper, these coins magically carry the intense hopes and dreams of folks who would pay tenfold for a peek into their futures. In other words, there's an order of magnitude at play here. But here's my favorite pile. These are pennies so corroded with verdigris, so run over by grimy vehicles, that they're quite obviously lucky pennies found in the street. And I do take the phrase lucky penny quite literally. I mean, who could argue that finding free money isn't lucky? A penny in circulation gets smoothed by people's fingers and purses and the rubbing of other change. A super corroded penny can only have come from the gutter. And so we can do some reverse engineering. Folks found a lucky penny, stooped to pick it up. Not everyone will stoop to pick up a penny, mind you. and then encountered this weight and fortune machine. Perhaps the newfound lucky penny was the only penny they had, in which case they decided to spend that luck at this machine, as opposed to saving it for a future necessity. Or perhaps they had other pennies too, and chose the lucky one. Were they constructing their hope for a good weight, their wish for a bright future, and the luck of found money into some sort of mystical Pythagorean triad, even if unconsciously? Did they squander their luck by choosing the penny at random? And that begs the question, can one squander a lucky penny? Did they purposefully choose the so-called ugliest penny to get rid of, because they're shiny bigots? We can't know, but these lucky pennies are just brimming with stories. In full disclosure, these pennies are giving off quite an energetic field. Copper conducts electricity, of course, and I wonder whether the ambient electricity in the environment is somehow getting harvested by these towers of pennies. Folk wisdom holds that copper increases the intensity of a person's aura, and you can see how an idea like that got sparked. I'm going to scan these pennies with my uncanny detector app. The uncanny detector has given me a reading now. It says, "It is possible for you, now that you no longer have anything left but certain bodily sensations, now that you have become a depersonalized inhuman force without hope or aim, to exercise a genuine power, an almost supernatural power, over the future of the entity you love. The demiurge of the universe is so much diffused subconscious magnetism, submissive to nothing but commands rather than prayers." Oh, there is an image on this penny of a puka in the form of a rabbit, a hare, looking eye to eye with Lincoln. Take a look at this.